Everyone. My name is Dr. Albert Bermonti. I'm a talent agent, performance mindset coach, and author of Rise Above the Script, Confronting Self-Doubt and Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists. And I'm happy to be here today.
Yes, and we're happy to have you. So, I'm on your website, Unlock Your Potential and Transform Your Life. And what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's really helping people get out of their own way, their own blocks, and a lot of times, my experience, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of their limitations are often self-imposed, and they're and I've often said this too, like their own worst enemy is staring at them in the mirror, not
Yes,
other people, not lack of access. A lot of times it's the mindset that's holding people back.
and I agree.
So
But
I
I
feel like
also
that's really
I think it's also because you're like a product of your own environment sometimes. So a lot of people blame like because they grow up in a bad.
oh, like we were breaking up for a second. So I'm not entirely sure what was asked the last time, but I can just really expand how a lot of people are really just holding themselves back when it comes to their own limitations, their own lack of mindset. I think we're back. So,
I don't know. It just kicks me out in the middle of me talking, but I guess um we can start over. So, hey Albert, thank you for joining the
hey,
show. And
Destiny.
well, it's actually Christina, but that's fine. Or Roman, which Desi, Christina, Roman. But back to this, what we was talking about before we got interrupted by technology, of course. Unlock your potential, transform your life. And you were saying that a lot of people tend to blame instead of looking in the mirror.
Well, not necessarily looking in the mirror, but I'm saying like what is truly going on here is a lot of when we talk about unlocking your potential is really just getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
Whether it's not necessarily blaming other people, it may just say I can't get anywhere. Why can't I be successful? Almost taking that the victim mindset. When reality, a lot of times, what's holding them back is their own self, and
Yes.
so it's about looking within and really developing a plan of action and a plan of attack, so that they can be able to reach their potential, that they're able to remove any self-imposed limitations.
Okay. Because I like to hear you said your mind holds the power to achieve extraordinary things. Hypnosis is the key to unlocking it. Now let's get into the hypnosis part. What do you mean by that?
Okay. Well, what I mean, because I am a hypnotist, and it's
Oh,
about reaching your subconscious mind, and that's where a lot of that stuff starts from. The victim mindset, the limiting beliefs, and it may be a belief that you're carrying since you were a child, maybe even before we hit the age of like 14 or even 8 years of age. We already start to have beliefs about ourselves, and they're formed by our parents, by our family, by our teachers, and sometimes those can be limiting.
I
And
agree.
and that's where hypnosis comes in, because it's like, okay, let's rewire that, let's reprogram that,
That's the
because
key
again,
word.
that's usually what's holding back.
Yes. And I
Reprogram, yes.
think reprogram is like the key word because you literally have to reset the brain, reset your mind. And it's basically like unlearning all the BS that you've accumulated throughout the years. And how does that hypnosis process go? Do you have your own technique?
Well, usually it's even just visualization. I mean, even if you just right before, and you could even do this without someone else, where you just imagine, visualize yourself, whatever it is you set to do, whether it's to complete a project, you just spend some time in stillness, and that just imagine it in your head going well, or visualize it, or imagine it, whatever. If you can't really, some people can't really see things when they imagine. Some people have feelings. Some people just have impressions. But whatever it is, whatever works for you, just imagine it, whatever situation, scenario you're going on, going very, very well. If you're going to give a presentation, if you're going to do, take a test or go out for an audition, before it happens, just run it through your head going very, very well. And the human mind does not know the difference between fiction and reality. So when you're imagining these scenarios going extremely well, or extremely in the direction you want to, you're then going to have a much better success rate. And research has backed this up because they've taken, like, athletes, for instance. They've done a lot of studies with athletes and visualization. So they had one group, three groups. One group was no practice, no visualization. The second group was just practice, mechanical practice of their sport. And then the third group was combining both, practice and daily visualization. The third group that did both way outperformed just the group that practiced. So our minds are incredibly powerful. So a lot of people, when they hear the word hypnosis, it's a bit scary or a bit treacherous or a bit mystifying. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of here to tell you there's nothing scary or mystifying about it. We go through hypnosis several times a day. And here's an example. Though those of you who drive, when you drive to a destination, and let's say it's a 45-minute or an hour drive, you sometimes will notice that you blank out and all of a sudden you're at your destination. And you don't realize well, I just remember getting in the car. Now I'm here. What happened? Well, your subconscious mind took over because you know driving so well that your mind just took care of it and you went elsewhere. Um, the same thing like when you go to sit and watch a movie. If it's a really good movie, you may not even realize that 2 hours, 2.5 hours just went by because you're so engrossed in the movie. And another aspect of the thing, when you sit and watch a movie, you know it's fake because you know it's a movie. You know that it was artificially made. But yet, you still get caught up in the plot. You'll either laugh, you'll get angry, you'll get scared, you'll get people cry at movies. And yet, on a conscious mind, you know it's fake. So you went into trance while you were watching that movie. You went into a hypnotic state. Um, Even words can be hypnotic. So let's say you come home, you had a long day, and your spouse or your significant other says, honey, you look tired. Now, all of a sudden, you start to feel tired. Or let's say you get up and you may feel like you're getting a cold, and somebody looks at you and says, you don't look well. Now, all of a sudden, you start feeling worse.
Yeah.
So
And
that's hypnosis, really.
okay, so what about these hypnosis audio collections? Are these specific frequency sounds? Like for, because like you
Uh,
right here you have alcohol and anxiety, anger management, then down to health, motivation, weight, students. And I'm a student, so I'm looking at the student one like, I need to be listening to this today, huh?
yeah, I mean,
Were
well,
they
the
about?
thing is, So usually when you put on any one of those MP3s that are on there, these audios, it'll guide you through a self process. Starting with just sitting in a quiet space. I recommend sitting in a quiet space. Obviously, you wouldn't be listening if you're driving or if you're doing anything that requires concentration. So when you have like 15 minutes or 15 to 17 minutes of downtime, listen to one of those MP3s. Put your earbuds in, and it takes you through a journey. I take you through a journey,
Oh, okay.
and it's on. And there's so many topics available.
Okay. And right here, you said all of this is about empowering someone to become the best version of themselves. What do you define as the best version of oneself?
So the best version of oneself is really working in an optimal state. So being like the best Desi you can be without limitations, without fear, without is this going to work? Because a lot of times it's like I want to be successful, but I'm not a good student,
That,
and I hear
but
this a
yeah,
lot from students, or I'm not a good test taker. Well, let's get rid of that. Now, when you study, now of course it's not going to make you osmosis understand material. You still have to study. However, when you're now studying, you're not worried about like, am I a good student or not? It's just coming through you. You're operating at 100% operating speed when it comes to, or when you're writing or when you're speaking. With public speaking, a lot of people are nervous, like when they go up there and say, I don't know what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say, and then that starts impacting the quality of the work. So let's get rid of that noise. Now, you're going to find that you're a much better speaker, a much better student, a much better business person when you don't have those limiting beliefs anymore. When you don't have that noise in your head saying, I should be doing that, I should be doing this, or why is this not working?
that's true. I agree. And with hypnosis, do you use like any other remedies? I know a lot of people, there's like sage, there's like the sound bowls or any essential oils that you also use, or is it just
I
audio?
I I use mainly coaching or audio or live sessions. However, whatever
Oh,
works for everybody, everybody's unique. So if you're a type of person that's using sage, use it. If you want to use essential oils, use it. Whatever works for you. The issue here is to be non-judgmental. So what works for you is the best. You are the best knowledge of yourself.
yeah.
So if that is something you feel is valuable, and there is some evidence that it does work, that's effective because a person really believes in that effective. And the same thing with hypnosis is you have to at least have an open mind, to it.
Yes.
The one thing that we cannot change is free will. So I can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do, and that's the one thing I want to kind of clear up about the hypnosis is that we can't make anyone do anything against their will. There's no such thing as controlling people. At least unless they're open to it, they have to be open to it to some level. So if I work if somebody comes into my office with their arms folded saying hypnosis is not going to work for me, you're right, it's not going to work. And I wouldn't bother wasting their time or my time trying to convince otherwise. However, if they walk in and say, I'm a little skeptical, I hope this will work. That's a much better, uh, place to be because then you're at least open to it. Because we cannot change free will.
And I agree with that. And I do see that you have a great review from a happy customer. They're a gymnast, and the hypnosis helped them remove self doubt and mental blocks. What is one of the things that helped them? We know it's hypnosis, but what in particular? What particular sound did she use? I mean, I know you can't give all the sauce and stuff because, you know, people have to come check out your website if they, but what is, you can give us a little details, not too much.
So with that gymnast, a lot of times it was the when there was a lot of people in the audience, she would find herself metaphorically choking and sometimes slipping a bit, when she was about to do an act or a specific thing, because she was in her mind too much. So we just used, centering, visualization, relaxation to get her into a peak state so that when she was up there, it was just herself. I'm performing for myself. I'm having, fun here, doing what I intend to do. And the audience is not there, even though they were there, but in her mind, we created a blank slate so that she's up there doing her, her acts, with the belief is like, I'm 100% trained for this. I practiced. I'm going to show myself what I can do. And everything else is just, secondary. So it's really just getting out of your own head, where you stop
Yeah.
worrying about, what am I going to think? I just messed up. I did this, because oftentimes we're our own worst critic. Yeah, and when we look at ourselves doing
Unfortunately,
things, we're
we
very
are.
judgmental.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's all it is just getting that critic out of the picture.
Yes, so you can unlock your power, become the best version of yourself. So I respect it. And I've learned so much about hypnosis. I'm definitely interested in the audio collections, and I see you have a lot of other good gems on here. But is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
No, I would just say that, that you are, the best, you can be the best version of yourself. And one last thing I would look at is don't be afraid of failure, because failure is feedback. And there's no such thing as failure, it's just feedback. So when things go wrong or when things don't go as planned, look at that as information. Look at that as, a gem of information that you can learn from.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it does make you look at it from a better point of view, a more positive outlook. And I think
Yes.
that's very important to strive to have. Um, yeah, I 100% agree. So thank you so much for joining, and
Well,
hope to have you back to discuss one of the audio collections that I end up trying out for myself. I really leaning towards the student. So we
well,
will
I would
see. You have
highly
a lot of
encourage it, and
options.
of course I do. And there's something for everybody. And I would love to hear, like in a few
Yeah.
weeks, if you know what differences you've noticed and improvements.
Yes. Yes, and I'll get here and do my live testimony. But yes, have a nice day. See you back
Thank
here
you.
soon.